At the edge of the world, where the road starts to shimmer and the horizon seems to melt into the sky, there is a town that looks like a mistake. From a distance, it appears abandoned. A cluster of low buildings, empty streets, rusted signs, windows that reflect nothing but heat. Most people who drive past assume nobody could possibly live there. Most people would be wrong. Because in this deserted town, where nearly everyone else left, a small number of people stayed behind. And the reason they stayed is not simple. Some stayed because they had nowhere else to go. Some stayed because they loved the silence. Some stayed because the town, even in ruin, still belonged to their memories. And some stayed because they believed that if they left, something important would vanish forever. This is the story of the people who live in the deserted town nobody left. The town sits in a place where survival has always been difficult. Long, dry summers. Dust storms that roll in without warning. Winters so cold at night that metal cracks. Water was always precious here, and every drop mattered. When the town was founded, it was built on hope more than certainty. There was a mine nearby, a rail line that once mattered, and a promise that work would come. For a while it did. Families arrived. Children were born. A school opened. A grocery store served fresh bread on certain days. A small church held weddings, funerals, and holiday dinners. On Friday nights, people gathered outside to talk under porch lights while the desert cooled around them. For a few decades, the town felt permanent. Then the mine declined. Jobs disappeared. The rail line changed. Younger people left to find work in bigger cities. Stores shut their doors one by one. The clinic closed. The school's classroom count shrank from 3 to 1, then to none. Houses were sold for almost nothing, then abandoned. Wind pushed sand through broken fences and into empty living rooms. By the time the outside world noticed, the town had already begun to disappear. And yet, a handful of residents remained. One of them was Marta, who had lived there since she was 6 years old. She was now in her 70s, with hands rough from a lifetime of work and a memory so sharp it could seem almost unfair. She knew which houses once had dogwood trees in front, which corner used to sell gas, and where the best breeze ran through the main street on summer evenings. To visitors, she looked like someone guarding ruins. To her, she was guarding a home. Marta still lived in the house her parents bought in the 1960s. The paint had faded years ago. One window was boarded up after a storm. Her garden was small, but she coaxed tomatoes and peppers out of the dry soil with patience and rainwater collected in barrels. Every morning, she swept the porch, even though the wind undid her work by noon. When you stop caring for a place, she once said, it dies faster. That idea is at the heart of life here. In a town with so few people left, every act of maintenance becomes an act of belief. There was also Eli, a former mechanic who moved back after 20 years away. He had left as a young man, tired of the heat and determined never to return. He worked in city garages, married, divorced, and spent years feeling like a person with no anchor. Then his mother fell ill, and he came back to help. She passed away, but he stayed. At first, he told himself it was temporary. He'd fix the old truck, clean out the house, maybe sell the property. But then he found himself repairing neighbors' water pumps, patching old roofs, and trading labor for eggs, canned peaches, or a bag of flour. He discovered that in a place where almost everything is broken, being useful can become a reason to live. Then there was Lila, one of the youngest residents, who had returned after college. She had studied environmental science and thought she could save the town with data, grants, and clever planning. She learned quickly that history is not so easy to reverse. Still, she stayed because the desert mattered to her. She saw the town not just as a remnant of failure, but as a living example of how communities adapt when resources run thin. Lila spent her days cataloging old wells, mapping water use, and helping residents install solar panels. She also kept notes on the things no spreadsheet could capture. The way people shared groceries during heat waves, how they checked on each other after storms, and how, when one house lost power, the rest would quietly adjust. A deserted town can look like emptiness from the outside. Inside, it can be something else entirely. That is the first thing visitors often misunderstand. They imagine that when a place empties out, all life leaves with the people. But what actually remains is a different kind of life, slower, more fragile, and often more determined. In this town, the remaining residents know each other not just by name, but by routine. They know who wakes early, who needs help lifting firewood, who hates the taste of canned beans, who hasn't been seen since the last dust storm and should be checked on immediately. There is no anonymity here. There is only mutual dependence. And dependence changes people. In larger towns, it is easy to ignore your neighbors for weeks. Here, silence itself can be a warning. If Marta does not open her curtains by 8, someone notices. If Eli's truck doesn't start, someone comes with tools. If Lila's porch light stays off too long, a neighbor knocks. People look out for one another because there are too few of them not to. In the abandoned parts of town, however, there is another world. Whole blocks stand empty. Doors hang loose on hinges. Curtains, once bright, fade into the color of dust. Desert shrubs push through cracks in sidewalks. Old family photographs lie scattered in drawers that no one bothered to take. The wind moves through these places like a visitor that owns them now. Yet even there, the past does not feel fully dead. There is the old diner, where the neon sign no longer lights up, but the counter still gleams from decades of polishing. There is the school building, where chalk marks remain faintly visible on a blackboard that no one erased. There is the post office, closed now, though some residents still sort through the mailboxes out of habit, as if expecting one more letter from a world that forgot them. That's what makes the town so haunting. It is not a place where life ended in a single dramatic moment. It was drained slowly, year by year, until emptiness became normal. But for those who stayed, normal never meant forgotten. Marta still tells stories about the old carnival that came every summer, with cotton candy, cracked music, and a Ferris wheel that made the whole town glow at night. Eli remembers the factory siren that once marked the shift change. Lila knows the old irrigation maps, the attempts at farming, the drought years, and the small policy mistakes that compounded until they became a crisis. Each person carries a different version of the town, and together those versions form something like a living archive. Their stories matter because they reveal a truth about disappearing places. The people who remain often become the memory of everyone who left. But memory alone does not keep a town alive. Practical things do, like water. In a desert town, water is never background. It is always central. The remaining residents depend on a patchwork of wells, tanks, deliveries, conservation habits, and old infrastructure that should have failed long ago. Lila helped organize a community water plan after one particularly brutal summer, when temperatures stayed high for weeks and the nearest supply line nearly ran dry. The plan was simple: strict usage tracking, shared storage, and emergency collection points. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't heroic in the way movies like to show. It was clipboard work, repairs, arguments, and compromises. It was neighbors agreeing to shorter showers and fewer lawns. It was people learning to live with less because the alternative was no life at all. And surprisingly, it worked. The town did not come back to its old size. It did not become a bustling hub again. But it survived, and survival was enough. Still, there are moments when the weight of emptiness presses hardest. For Eli, it happened at sunset, when the streets became gold and quiet. He would stand outside the old hardware store, now shuttered, and remember the days when he could not get through the front door because the place was crowded with customers. He once admitted that the hardest part of staying was not the loneliness, but the echo of what used to be. "You can hear the ghosts better here," he said. For Marta, the hardest moments came in winter, when the town's emptiness felt sharper under the cold. She would set extra places at the table out of habit before remembering that no one was coming for dinner except the people already there. For Lila, the challenge was different. She loved the town's resilience, but she also saw its vulnerability. One bad policy decision, one broken water system, one severe storm, and the remaining community could be pushed past its limit. She knew that many deserted towns do not fail because of one dramatic catastrophe. They fail because too many small systems stop working at once. That is why she studied it so carefully, not just to preserve a town, but to understand how communities unravel. The outside world sometimes visits, usually with cameras. Journalists come looking for striking images: peeling paint, empty storefronts, long streets baked white by sun. Urban explorers arrive hoping for mystery. A few curious travelers stop because they have seen stories about ghost towns and want to walk through history. They ask the same questions. Why did everyone leave? Why did you stay? Aren't you afraid? The residents answer politely, but the questions often miss the point. For them, This isn't an abandoned attraction. It is a place with grocery lists, birthdays, unpaid bills, repaired fences, and a cemetery where generations are buried. It is where they buried parents and raised children and learned to survive without expecting much from the world. The town may be small, but it is not empty in the way outsiders mean. On certain evenings, when the air cools and the wind settles, a few neighbors gather at Marta's house. They bring whatever they can: bread, soup, canned fruit, sometimes a pie if someone has flour to spare. They sit around a table that has seen better decades and talk about weather, repairs, and old stories that never get old. They laugh, too. That surprises people most. They imagine deserted places as silent and sad, but these residents have learned to find humor in inconvenience. They joke about the stubbornness of the pump, the dust that gets into everything, the way one old rooster still acts like he owns the street. They laugh because laughter is a form of resistance. It says, we are still here. And being there, in a place most people left behind, gives them a perspective the rest of us rarely get. They understand that communities are not just buildings or populations or tax records. Communities are habits of care. They are shared burdens. They are people showing up when there is no reward except the fact that someone needed them. The deserted town nobody left is proof of that. It is proof that a place can shrink without becoming meaningless, that a town can lose most of its population and still contain dignity, memory, and purpose, that staying is not always stubbornness or nostalgia. Sometimes it is responsibility. Sometimes it is love. Sometimes it is the quiet conviction that even a fading place deserves a witness. As the years pass, the town may change again. More houses may fall into disrepair. More roads may crack. Some of the current residents may leave or pass on. New technology may help, or perhaps new pressure from the outside will finally force another transformation. Nothing here is guaranteed. But for now, the town still breathes in its own way. Marta still sweeps her porch. Eli still fixes what can be fixed. Lila still gathers the numbers, the stories, and the reasons to hope. And every day, they keep proving that deserted does not always mean dead. Sometimes it means waiting. Sometimes it means enduring. And sometimes it means a few ordinary people deciding that the place everyone else gave up on is still worth their lives. If this story moved you, take a moment to think about the places that survive because someone refuses to let them vanish. And if you want more true, unforgettable stories like this, subscribe for the next one.